Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families, and I am so grateful to be here with my husband, Merrill Hutchinson. Hi, honey.
Well, hello, Linda. How are you today?
I'm just so grateful, hon, because even though I'm always grateful, by the way, to work alongside you, I'm especially in this...
Sure. You're saying that just because you're being recorded. That's the only reason.
No, I'm really especially grateful to be still doing what we're doing in the midst of all this chaos our world, But
what kind of chaos?
Well, unless you've been under a rock last several weeks, months, that the coronavirus obviously is on the forefront of everybody's minds. And so before we go any further in our show today, hon, we do want to extend our sympathies to those who have been stricken with this virus or maybe who've lost a loved one due to this invisible enemy we're fighting. So we just want to acknowledge them.
We talk all the time about shelf life on shows. And so a lot of times we don't want to have hard dates to kind of limit the life of the show, but this is this particular show, and probably several to follow, are going to be etched into the memory of all of us due to the circumstance of the coronavirus or COVID-19. So with that being said, we're going to make do with what we have, and it is a memory that we're going to have. But I think part of the purpose in today's show is to actually kind of debrief what we're going through, not just us as a family, but other families, our community, our town, as well as the nation and the world. And so this is a great opportunity for us. Even though the game's not over, so we're not going to do any kind of armchair quarterbacking. But while we're in this game, we do get an occasional opportunity to come up for air, to assess, to see how we are doing, to see what is happening. And so I think this is a great opportunity for you and I to do this on the show.
Yeah. And to really, there's a lot of parents out there, hon, that are trying to navigate a job, maybe still working from home. So if that's you and you're about ready to pull your hair out, we're here to hopefully offer you some help. But, hon, we do want to first acknowledge the millions of people whose livelihood or businesses have been affected by the shutdown our country is experiencing. And we want to say thank you to all of those healthcare workers, first responders, soldiers, really anyone who have put their own lives to risk to help others in this worldwide pandemic. And, hon, it's been so cool just to see the community, like you mentioned, coming together to offer whatever help they can in any way possible, whether it be the schools, whether it be other businesses that are still open, those that maybe have shut down but are offering themselves or their resources in other ways. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, as we speak, I mean, one of the things that you and I always try to do, hon, is remind ourselves and others that we are just real people like everybody else. And even though we talk with some advice giving here and there on this show, that we're just trying to do life. And so Rock Solid Families, our ministry, is also suffering because we work with people, and people are not able to access us right now, or we're not able to effectively access them. So, some of our coaching sessions, many of them have been canceled, but some of them are like through phone sessions or screen time. Yep. So that's helped a little. But even if you are still out working, everybody's life is being impacted. And I think this gives us a great appreciation and respect for everyone, that no one's better or worse than anyone else.
We're in this together.
Of just doing life. Yeah, we're doing it together. Obviously, anyone who is actually infected with the virus, that's a whole different level of, how much they're dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
But as far as the economy and all of these different things that are shut down or slowed way down, we're all going to feel this, and we're going to continue to feel it. And we really don't know where the end is as we try to watch the news every evening and see whether we've hit peak numbers or if the curve's coming back down or being flattened. And so we really don't know that just yet. So for today, we're going to talk about where we are today. But before we do that, we probably need to thank a few sponsors.
Yeah, but hun, before we do that, if you're like millions of Americans who are probably on information overload as you sift through the endless barrage of facts and a ton of opinions, and as you said, everybody's got their armchair quarterback opinion of which way to go and what to do. That's not what our show is about today.
Right.
Our show today is about focusing on inside your home. What's going on with you and your family? How are you doing? Specifically, we are talking to parents who find themselves in uncharted waters. Their kids are home all day from school, from daycare. Their sports have been canceled. And so they're trying to navigate this. So hopefully we can help. And we're in this, just like you said, we have 3 at home right now that just found out they're off school for another month or so. And so what do you do with that? We're going to be talking more about that. But before we do.
Our situation has not always been pretty, but we'll talk about that
as well. Yeah.
So anyway, we want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency for coming behind and alongside of Rock Solid Radio. Thanks Mansfield Insurance for being such a strong community member and supporter. They started in 1981 by Jim Mansfield, and they are dedicated to serving the individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So for all your insurance needs, contact Mansfield Insurance Agency at 800-230-3927.
Yeah, and we do have limited travel and non-essential businesses being closed. And I did hear that Mansfield Insurance is considered an essential business. So they are still open and ready to serve you, as well as Maxwell Construction, which was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. And since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become one of the most recognized construction companies in the tri-state. And so if you have any kind of construction needs, whether it be a hospital, restaurant, apartment building, retail center, Maxwell Construction is able to meet those needs. So call them today at 812-537-2200.
Yeah, and so just a couple of updates. We kind of briefly touched on this, but we at Rock Solid Families are pretty much shut down. Our finishing exercise classes have been shut down just for the sake of protecting those that come in. Also, individual counseling sessions have been greatly modified. But here's what I will say, that if you have a concern or a question or something is coming up in your life, please do not hesitate to call us, because we will make arrangements, whether it's a phone conversation or a Skype or Zoom session. We will make this happen. So you can reach us, and we'll schedule it through after the phone call, but you can reach us at 812-576-7625.
Yeah.
Give us a call there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here. I like the comparison that you wrote down in our notes here.
About what?
The blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
The blizzard.
That's all I've got to refer to, and I was a kid, obviously, but I remember my mom talking about being home with us for a month.
Yeah.
And about her pulling her hair out. And
so, I thought about that. And I have nothing but fond memories of the blizzard.
Yep.
And I thought about that. Like, why are my memories so fond?
Yeah.
We were without electricity. We heated our house with a wood stove. We were all off school for like nearly a month. Okay. And I think what I want to share here is something that maybe I didn't understand until we've kind of come into our own new crisis situation, if I can call it that. My dad embraced that blizzard. And so when things were being shut down, he was like, hey, this isn't going to stop us. Now, not
from living life.
Yeah, not that it's going to not impede certain things that we do. But he had such an adventure spirit to him, and such a, hey, we will determine how we roll through this. It's not going to determine how we're going to operate. And I'm talking mostly attitude.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm
Perspective.
talking attitude. And so I remember very much during that blizzard time, my dad looking at us kids saying, I don't care how cold it is. You have clothes, dress, go out. And it wasn't like it snowed for 30 days straight. It was just, you had the storm. But after that,
awesome snow, though.
Well, and we went out and I made a ton of money and volunteered a ton of hours because we would go out and plow driveways, dig out of drifts, help people in their homes. And we were just dressed for it. And I give the credit to the attitude of that to my dad. And so I think part of the reason why I bring that up is so much of what we're going to talk about today is coming down to attitude. You could be a victim to this. And again, I'm not trying to minimize if somebody actually is infected by corona. I am not minimizing that. We've got to get those folks taken care of. But as far as the rest of us who are just in a shutdown mode.
Right. Being inconvenienced.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is now about attitude, and we're going to work through some of that.
Yeah. We want to, we're hoping that we're going to give you some tools and suggestions to not just survive this unprecedented time, but to thrive. And obviously every child is unique, and responds differently to crises. But there's some tried and true methods that I think could help bring some peace and some joy and some laughter into your home. And so we just want to talk about that today. We're not experts. We've just been around the block a few times and worked with a lot of families. And we're in this together. Like we said, we've got 3 at home right now that are trying to figure out what they're going to do in the next month. But here are some things that we've put in place that I think are really critical for families to really embrace and to consider.
Right. So I think the first thing that is parents, what we have to really wrap our head around, and especially if you have very young kids, like from the ages of 3 to 10 years old, in that age range where they're old enough to see that things are changing and understanding it, but not quite understanding like where it might end. You have to create an emotional safe place. Yeah. And we always want your house to be that way. And in fact, that's what we find, that when kids don't have a safe and secure home environment, it creates a lot of ruckus in their mind.
In every area of their life.
Permeates throughout.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we just want to encourage parents to do is you have to be the leader here. You have to look at your kids and say, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like exactly, but we are going to persevere. And I think, as I alluded to before with my dad's sharing that with us kids with the blizzard of 77, 78, his message is, no, we're going to be okay. Yeah, I don't know exactly how we're doing all this yet, but we're going to be okay. And so very important that mom and dad, you look at your kids and again, be that leader through your strength and your conviction and your confidence that you guys will prevail.
Yeah. And so how are you doing? So if you're glued to the phone, if you're ruminating on all these negative thoughts of what if, your kids are going to do that. And so turn off the TV, stop scrolling, put the phone down, have authentic, real conversations with your kids. And one of the coolest things we bought before this pandemic and this quarantine came into place was these little conversation cards called Let's Talk. And they're online and there's all kinds of them. But we just kind of wanted to have some authentic conversations and kind of have different questions that kind of sparked those discussions. And so our kids have fallen in love with this. They call it huddle time and they can't wait for it. And everybody picks a different card and a question. And like just last night, there were some really cool conversations that came out of that, whether it be what's your scariest moment, how are you serving someone today, what's your favorite memory, just things that really help them to process some of the feelings and emotions that they're having, especially in this uncertain time.
Yeah, and I can say that on a beautiful sunny day when all is right with the world, they would have not nearly the interest in doing that.
Yeah.
But because boredom has overtaken them, it's like, well, what else is there? It's kind of like the puzzles that we've been doing. It's like, I've told you, I am not a puzzle dude.
But you've been touching that puzzle.
I have been kicking butt.
I know. You've been stealing my puzzles pieces.
But it's like there's nothing else to do. Yeah. And so this conversation card game that you brought up and that we're playing or working through, even our quietest child has worked to want to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
And so, which is giving us a great opportunity to kind of tap into him.
Yeah.
Like to say, hey, you know what, we hear you. We hear
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So, and you don't have to have these conversation cards. Again, we bought them online, but even around the dinner table, to set up a place where they can go with their emotions of the day. And so do highs and lows. We did that forever, and we've continued to do that. What was your high today? What was your low today? To kind of tap into those emotions and feelings. Maybe they are having some anxiety and fear. To kind of get into that so it doesn't ruminate and doesn't build into something really big and, out of control.
Yeah, so getting them to feel safe and secure.
Yeah, number one.
The next thing, hon, this next thing is yours, okay?
What do you mean?
I mean, this is your baby. You love this, and I definitely see the need and benefit for it, but I am not good at putting it together for the family.
Yeah.
So I'll let you speak. Yeah, you don't have to say, yeah, like you just agreed with me, like, yeah, you're terrible at
Well,
it.
hon, even though you're not the schedule person, the structure person, you know the importance of some structure. And so we have done tons of shows on Rock Solid Radio about overscheduled kids, overwhelmed families that are so wound, so tight, they're about ready to snap. But I do think that it's important for our kids' mental health to have some kind of structure in their day. They need a routine. They need some expectations of what the day looks like, because their expectations are all out of whack. The routines have been taken from them. They're used to getting up, going to school, coming home, doing practice, and that's all gone. And so we got to give them some kind of structure so they're not sitting on the couch all day staring at a TV.
Yeah, well, I have to give you kudos at this just because you actually set up a somewhat of a schedule, not that it's hardened or anything, but of some different things that when they get up, here's some things that you guys can do to get you rolling. And again, like we've said during this entire time, there's no TV or screen time until after dinner.
Yeah.
And that's simply because we know that screens, when they're not used for anything but just to vegetate in front of, are big, big, big leaders to depression, anxiety, anger, all these different things. And we see that when the kids stare at the TV for too long, they get grumpy towards each other. The house gets kind of nasty, especially when they start fighting over shows.
Yeah, I mean, put some guidelines on your screens at home. Please, right now, don't use it as a babysitter all day. I have been hearing people talk about how they're binge watching Netflix or how they're, on the screens for hours and hours and hours. I don't care if it's Call of Duty or ABC Mouse. Screens in general are unhealthy for our kids. The prefrontal cortex of our child's brain is delayed because of that screen time. So we've done a show on this called Parenting in a Tech-Heavy World. I would ask you to go back and listen to that on our podcast. But limit screen time. For our kiddos, we have 2 teenagers. We've given them their phones during the day, but we've told them, we're going to look at your screen time at the end of the day, and it needs to be under 3 hours. So you decide, if you want to do a game or FaceTime for an hour, well, then you've just blown an hour up.
Right, and not listening to music, whatever. So it doesn't take long to pile up 3 hours. And so they just realized that, too, when they checked their own screen time and went, oh, my gosh, I'm already there.
So we first said, hon, first things first. Okay, they're not going to sleep all day. Okay, before anything happens in their day, they're going to get up, they're going to eat breakfast, they're going to brush their teeth, which isn't that gross that's kind of been an option for our kids? Like, that's disgusting. And then make your bed, which that's just a habit that I think is a good habit to start with, and gets them up, gets that bed kind of off limits because it's made now, right? And they're out of it. And so we say that happens for anything.
Right. It's a matter of building the habit, and whether it's the bed making, teeth brushing, whatever it is, it's a matter of the habit that when we talk all the time, what do you want for your kids when they're moving out of your home?
Yeah.
And these are some simple things that every parent kind of agrees to. You want your kid to have good hygiene, take care of themselves, and all these things.
Right.
Well, that's not going to start the day that you bump them out of your house. And so these are just perfect times to do that. There's no stress in doing it because it's not like they have to go somewhere. So it's not like, the bus is coming down the street and I don't have time to make my bed. So it really does make it simple in that way. And, I will say all 3 of our kiddos have really jumped onto that because they do see the purpose in it. Not that it makes it easier, but they see the purpose in it.
Right. And we're not hounding them, but we're saying, hey, this is important, and we're making this a priority. It's not like you said they're on the rushing out the door to the bus. But we also have said, hon, there needs to be some essentials in their day. Things that you and I grew up with that was just go-tos. For instance, outside. We're saying, hey, we're not going to stick you outside if it's 30 degrees and raining, but if it's pretty like today, you're outside. My mom used to say, go out and blow the stink off. She wouldn't really make going inside an option. TV wasn't an option during our day. And
I've already noticed that if that's the only option going out, the brain will solve problems when it identifies the problem. Yeah. And so if they're outside and they're bored, the next thing you know, they're down in the woods building a fort, they're carrying sticks around, they're doing different things. Right. And that's what I want. That's that creative kind of fun. And, the next thing you know, they burn 3 or 4 hours down in the woods. And, they pass the time.
There's so many kids today that aren't encouraged or motivated to do that anymore. And I believe it's because we've allowed other things to just be okay, like sitting and watching TV or sitting on a tablet or a phone and just playing games. Our daughter is not an outdoor girl. And so this has been hard for her. But she now knows, even if it's painting her nails outside, even if it's coloring it on the deck, she's outside and she's getting that fresh air, that vitamin C that she desperately needs.
I think that's vitamin D.
Oh, is it?
That's all right. I take care of the exercise and nutrition.
Good thing you're the biology major. Yeah. Something else that we say is essential, before the TV goes on, is that we want you to do some reading. We're not going to shove it down your throat, but if you want the TV on later in the evening, then reading needs to be part of your day.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's one of those things that our 3 kiddos do not particularly like to read. And so we're not beating them up with, trained to see how many pages they can read and all that. And we want them to read something that they enjoy. So even if it would be a magazine on dirt bikes or whatever it is, that's not the point. The point is, it's not like you don't have time.
Right.
So you have some time to work on this skill.
We did that over the summer, hon, and we would go to the library, which isn't an option right this second, but we did that over the summer where we said no TV, and I took them to the library, and, they had to find a book, and our oldest one at home, he found a series he loved. And before you know it, he was wrapped up in that book. And I thought, wow, it just takes that motivation to find something you like and enjoy reading to really, get lost in a book.
Yeah. So the next thing that we really want to talk about and emphasize, and this does go back into more of our whole fundamental philosophy on parenting. We are... you and I, hon, we believe that if we can do one major thing outside of serving Christ, is to teach our kids how to serve others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because that's what, in our family, that's what we're all servants at some level. We're all servants.
We're called to be.
We're called to be. And even in the real world of going to work every day, if you're not willing to serve people, you're not going to have a job for long.
Yeah.
And so we are emphasizing the idea that, you got to take some time to put yourself aside and ask if you can help serve somebody else.
Yep.
Whether, I have some different projects going on around the house, whether you can come and help me or whether helping to do something, hon, that you're working on.
Yep.
Even more so, one of the kids helping serve the other kid.
Yeah.
That's kind of almost like miracle right there.
Right. I mean, we've got a teenage daughter right now who's baking brownies for Grandpa. We got 2 boys in the woods that are making a brush pile for you to clean up the woods. And so, whether maybe it's making cards for grandparents or shut-ins. I mean, there's tons of people right now who are isolated and need some encouragement. So, just make it a point, to say part of your day, we're serving someone. How have you served someone today? Ask that in your time around the table. And then the last thing, is, hon, just let them use their imagination. Let them pick. But puzzles, games, crafts, when screens are not an option, it's amazing what kids come up with. Like you said, we've done more puzzles in the last several weeks as a family. But it's been cool to sit around and just have conversation while we're putting a puzzle together.
Yeah. So. And even, as I said before, you don't get a lot of fight out of it because boredom, as we've done an entire show on boredom, boredom is the mother of invention.
Yes.
Right? It creates the imagination and it stimulates the imagination. And so working these puzzles or games or crafts or whatever, when your kids are like, well, there's nothing else to do.
Yep.
And so this has just been a good thing. Watch your kids go through it. It's good.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence, hon, that so many of the things that have just consumed our families, the practices, the games, the meets, the concerts, the events, they're gone. You know, I have students and parents that were coming in before this feeling so overwhelmed and feeling so pulled in so many directions. They were about ready to snap. And so now it's like, hello, we're in a place now. It's like, okay, now we have to reinvent ourselves and figure out what is important in our lives.
So this next part is just the idea of you kind of mentioned already. Once your kids buy into the idea that they're kind of stuck at home, we've talked about like this is a good time to see what they are interested in and if you're going to have them do a chore, giving them some choice. Well, hey, today you're going to be home for a month, so it's not like you don't have the time. So what would you like to do today? You got this, and this. So let's choose one or two of those. Yeah. Giving them a say in it.
Right.
And that allows them to have some ownership.
Right. Yeah. I mean, kind of setting up your routine of your day, to giving some input, helping them to have some feedback on that, letting them lead. I remember before this pandemic occurred, our daughter loving to plan the dinner and make a little menu and set up the table and cook for us. And, to giving them those opportunities is really very cool to help them to feel that there's a buy-in for that.
Hon, in this, what I'll call challenging time, challenges create growth.
Yep, if we allow them.
If we allow them. And so let's just take a breath right now because guess what? Over the next month, your kids are going to get frustrated. You as a parent are going to get frustrated. And your kids are going to make mistakes. And they're going to make you want to pull your hair out. We already had an incident where our younger one, he was out in the woods. And again, I wanted to kind of jump his case. But at the same time, I was like, well, he was out doing stuff. He
doing
was
what
being
you were,
creative, and he ended up hurting himself a little bit. Nothing bad, but enough that, his day has been kind of sidelined. And that is part of the challenge.
Right.
And to save our kid from these things and to save ourselves from these things is, again, us resorting back to the comfort zone. And guess what?
Right.
In the comfort zone, there is no growth.
Yeah. And, hon, I'm glad you said that because I personally, my area that I have to extend some grace on is my house. I don't like my house when it is thrown all apart and willy-nilly. And so if the kids are home all day and we're here at the office and we're working, to come home and to not have a conniption fit if the kitchen table has grummy crumbs on it, or if the floor's got dirt on it where they stepped in from the woods, like I have to extend some grace. Now, to say that, I don't want my house to be a wreck all the time. So we're going to have a 5-minute tidy. We're going to have cleanup time
but
where
it is time. But it's a matter of not losing your mind
exactly.
when you come in. Because
and losing my cool on them.
Right, because it is a matter of, I think a lot of times when we look at when kids make mistakes, what was their intention?
Right.
If their intention
or messes.
if their intention was to just be belligerent or rude or disrespectful, then that's gets you up as a parent. But if they were out doing stuff, they were busy, and a mess occurred, then we have to learn to roll with that. So this is our opportunity to grow. That, like you said, it doesn't mean the house doesn't get cleaned,
right?
But it wasn't the priority in that moment,
right? Hun, so we're talking about this challenging time and growing as a family. But first, I really ask you as a parent to read the emotional health of your child. If you see some red flags, if you see your kids feeling overwhelmed and fragile in this crisis time, get some professional help, especially if there's threats of self-harm or something. We want our kids safe and healthy above all else. So you set the tone of the home, okay? And in this world, if your sky is falling, your child's going to feel that way too. So you need to model an atmosphere of faith and hopefulness, because that's what your kids are going to be picking up on. Like you said, your dad and his perspective. So use this time to assess that, but then also hold them accountable.
Yeah.
You know, there is going to be e-learning coming up for our kiddos soon. And so they're going to be responsible for their schoolwork. They need structure. They need to be challenged. They need some accountability and some encouragement. So encourage them to do something new, to work on their stuff that they're responsible for.
All right, so let's get into our challenge, and we'll get ready to wrap some things up here. So, in the challenge part of this, so I'm going to try to separate this a little bit. Once we've taken care of the health and the safety aspects of this difficult time, because I do not want to minimize that if somebody's family or somebody is going through an actual direct infection from this coronavirus, then all bets are off. We're going to deal with that person in that situation. But if you are just dealing with the outflow of shutting in and all of that, the challenge is this. What is your response with your family that your family is seeing? The challenge is for you to assess this. We have a mighty God and carries us through all these things. And our God, and this is why we are Christians, because we don't have the answers to many, many, many things. And our God gives us a sense of peace and a sense of hope, okay? And so during this time, are we able to find peace? Do we understand that God needs to be the priority here? This is something I asked you to assess, right now. Like, wait, am I freaking out, or am I just like, hey, no, God has this. I don't know what it looks like, but God has this. I ask you this too, just like the blizzard of 77, 78 has been etched in a lot of our memories, remember this time is going to be etched in the memory of your kids and all of us to come. And what will that memory be? Will it be kind of like my dad did with me? Did he etch a memory of strength and courage and confidence and almost adventure with that 77, 78 blizzard? Or are my kids, am I etching a memory of fear and panic and oh my gosh? And again, this is a time for you as a parent to really show the strength that Christ gives you. So anyway, I can't emphasize that enough. What will your kids remember, and what will their memory be about what you gave them during this time?
Because, like you said, hon, if your hope and peace is found in your job or your 401k or even through the life of your kids and their sports, as you can see, it's all gone. It can be all gone tomorrow. And then what's left? So we got to find our peace and our joy and our strength in something that is unshakable, that can't be taken away or won't disappear tomorrow. So for our family, for this ministry, it's been the rock solid foundation of Jesus Christ. And so we don't know where your hope lies, where your peace comes from. But for us, it is the unshakable thing that does not change in our life. And that is the God of today, tomorrow, and of yesterday.
And not to sound like we're minimizing anything here, but I have total peace, no matter how this turns out, that God has me in his hands, whether I actually were to die. You know what? I live for a mighty God, and I'm at peace with knowing how this is going to roll. And I want our kids to feel that we are not panicked and that we are in peace. So anyway, we encourage all of our listeners out there, please think about what you're showing your kids and your neighbors and the rest of the family. And also take some time to thank God. Thank God. He wants you to ask him for help too, by the way. He wants that relationship with you. So it's a great time to pray. Speaking of that, let's pray.
That'd be awesome.
Right? Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, as we close out our show today, we are asking you, Lord, to put your hand of calmness and peace on our shoulder, Lord, that we would feel your strength, Lord, that we would rest in knowing that no matter how this turns out in an earthly way, that we are always held healthy and in just absolute security when we are under your care. So, Lord, I pray that you would help each and every one of our families look for the brightness in all of this. Lord, I pray that each and every one of our families would find strength in knowing you and peace in knowing you. Lord, I thank you for offering that to us, that in this world we will have troubles, but take heart. You have overcome the world. And so I thank you for that message. Lord, again, thank you for Linda, and thank you for our family, and just thank you for this opportunity to speak words of strength and encouragement. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.